coming to you from the Longwood Room at Village on the Green on October 11th. It's also being televised for Channel 3 for those of you at home. I'm Ann Blair, your council chair, and we have a lot to cover this morning, and so I'm just going to go over a few little things and then turn it over to Joey. First of all, I just want to welcome the newcomers that we welcomed at our council meeting. Carol Amster, who's in Villa 549, Danny and Jill Kroom in Villa 159, and Laura Lancaster in E312. Now, there are a couple of more moving in this month and one in November. Ronald and Charlotte Robinson are coming to Villa 196. Walton and Donna Hallows are closing on Villa 465, and then we're expecting some in November. So anyway, that's the lineup of names maybe to start getting in your head now so we can get acquainted with everybody. I also want to comment on the passing of Ron Buteau, one of our Village on the Green, very, very important people. The services were on the 8th, and I just wanted to comment because, again, we have so many newcomers, and Ron was so significant here at Village on the Green. He was really our resident photographer for years. He took pictures of every activity. He got them developed. He made 2 or 3 copies of each for people to just pick up and send to their family or do what they want to with them. He also was instrumental in promoting the honor flights for our veterans who go to Washington. And if you look at our history book in there, our Veterans History book, it chronicles all the flights that Ron did. They were just so significant and so meaningful to our veterans. I think at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Joey. There are so many things he's going to tell us, and then I'll get back to the council doings after he is finished. Joey being our executive director.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Yes, coming in loud and clear. Wonderful. Good to see you, everybody. For those who are watching at home, I did just get the slides posted to Touchdown, so if you have any trouble seeing what's on the screen here, you can follow along at home. So as always, our focus for the year has been our team members, our residents, occupancy, and finance. Now, we have gone in great detail into all the different kind of metrics and things like that that we're looking into. But we've also kind of narrowed the focus. I had shared last month that as we entered kind of the final stretch of the calendar year and our fiscal year, the organization as a whole and our community has really kind of narrowed our focus to sales, generating that revenue, and making sure that we're controlling our expenses. Obviously, we're going to get into the financial performance, and that kind of will elucidate why there's this focus towards the end of the year. But really what it is for me, my takeaway message to the team is, yes, we want to finish this year strong. We want to do it as well as possible, but we're also setting ourselves up for a successful 2024. So that's really why we have that focus on making sure we finish on a good note here. So we'll start off with the finances. So this is the enterprise level. Obviously, if you want to take a look at the numbers and whatnot, you'll feel free to take a look afterwards. So I just kind of point out a few highlights. Our occupancy and higher levels of living, which is at assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, continues to be strong throughout the organization. Obviously, there's a good deal of revenue that is generated in those areas, so it's certainly helpful to our operations as a whole. Operating expenses are continuing to be enterprise-wide below budget, which is good, and that our NOM is positive for the enterprise. So some positive elements to take away from the overall scorecard for our organization. As we delve into the regions, we're broken into 3 regions: Florida, Texas, and the rest of the kind of like the Midwest. Texas and the Midwest continue to perform positively from a net operating margin perspective. Florida, we continue to struggle a little bit, so currently our As a region, our NOM is a negative 4.2 million. When you break that up into the communities, Harbor's Edge leads the way in terms of being profitable. You can see Village on the Green, we've been just kind of borderline all year. We were sort of the positive, sort of the negative. As I kind of shared in the past, the property insurance surprise bill that we received this year really kind of blew a hole in the side of our ship, so we're taking on water right now, but we're certainly trying to make up for that unexpected expense from the revenue and labor expense control perspective. Not any kind of reduction, but just making sure we're using our resources wisely. So when you look at Village on the Green, currently it's a negative 2% net operating margin. So it's about $280,000 loss. I anticipate kind of looking ahead at the year. September's numbers are just coming out. It looks like we'll have another loss. We've narrowed that gap down to about $90,000, so we're starting to swing. But that really only leaves us 2 months to really kind of turn the corner. But we've got some good things coming our way from an occupancy perspective and new move-ins. We have 10 new move-ins scheduled for October, November, December. And the reason why that's important, obviously it adds monthly service fees, but we also get a processing fee off the entry fee. So you pay that 5% processing fee on every entrance fee. That goes straight to our bottom line for the month, so that can certainly help us quite a bit. We are 100% sold on all of our villas on campus. So really by the end of the year, all the villas will be occupied, and the villas do, in general, have some pretty large entrance fees, although there are apartments with large entrance fees as well. But a 5% of a big entrance fee is certainly super helpful. So I think, overall, kind of my forecast on the back of a napkin is we will probably have a loss for the year, but I think we're going to be narrowing that pretty significantly in December. Not enough to push us into positive, but definitely setting us up for a good 2024. Okay, so net entrance fees currently off from where we expected. The number of sales haven't met our goal number, so we have two numbers that we always have in mind. One is budget. That's kind of like what is our realistic expectation, and then there's the goal, the stretch where we're trying to get to. Our goal was 6.5 million, so we're certainly short of that right now, but I think we're going to see us catch up here in the last part of the year. The reason why that entry fee is important because it contributes to the positive net operating cash, the net cash production that we add, which obviously the more positive cash we bring on, the faster we pay off our fancy new Oaks building, and we pay for other capital projects, and we pay our debt, and we improve our financial health as a community and ultimately as an enterprise. So it's always important to make sure we're taking care of not just the month-to-month net operating margin, but at the end of the year, how much cash are we adding to the obligated group's bottom line. Yes, sir.
Well, it may be up there, but I can't see it. What is our occupancy rate?
So the question is, what is our current occupancy? So we closed the month of August at 75%. We are at 76% right now. If our kind of like our projected sales hold and our anticipated attrition, because we also have to remember there's potentially residents passing or leaving. We have to keep track of that. We're looking at breaking 80% at the end of this year, which is pretty big. It's pretty big for us. When I started last December, we were 72%. So, an 8% increase. We've had some of the highest sales numbers that we've had without any new inventory added. Like last year, we had 34 sales as a whole, but we had 30 residents leave, so we netted 4. This year, we're kind of projected to be about 32 sales. None of that's new inventory, it's all existing inventory, and we're on track. Right now we have 17 residents who've left. I probably anticipate a couple of more, but even if you close at 20 residents, that's 12 less than what we budgeted for. So between attrition being lower and our sales being strong again, that's how we're able to make that percentage leap, really, for us to break that 80% barrier by the end of the year. Good questions. Anything else regarding that? Okay. Well, so just kind of, I guess, recapping. So this was the end of August. We added 3 more move-ins in September, so we're at 22 for the year right now. And we've had 17 residents leave, so this is just August. I'm adding September's numbers to give you a more kind of up-to-date scope. So that's how our occupancy is now, closer to 76%, just over that. So resident satisfaction, we went through the process last month of soliciting your feedback. Thank you to everybody who did that. We're gonna spend a few slides here going into that. But from a scorecard perspective, earlier this year when we did the survey, our NPS score was a 33. The organization's goal was a 30, but as I had shared, our historical performance had been a 40, I think almost a 41 prior to the spring survey. So really I wanted to see some improvement there from an NPS perspective. So we came back at a 39 for this one. So we saw some improvement, but obviously we still have a ways to go in that department because the goal ultimately is a 51. That's best in class. So you don't have to read every single line on this slide, but for those of you looking for more detail later, you can certainly revisit this. This goes into the areas that we surveyed, the methodology that goes into the Net Promoter Score, and that it explains a little bit about the scale. You've got a 0 to 10 point scale. The way the NPS, Net Promoter Score, is calculated, it classifies those who give a 9 or a 10 as a promoter. And then if you were to rank something a 7 or an 8, you're passive. And then anything kind of 0 to 6 is a detractor. So kind of the philosophy being, if you were out in the community, if you were in the promoter category, if someone said, hey, do you like Village on the Green? Would you recommend living there? The likelihood of you saying, yes, I do, come on, join us is high. If you're a 7 or 8, you're probably neither negative nor positive. You'd be like, meh. And then if you were anything from a 0 to a 6, you'd be considered a detractor. You'd say, no, not really. The culinary program's not where I want. The fee increases are too high, whatever. So they take then the percentage of promoters and subtract the percentage of detractors to get you what your NPS score is. So that's that 39 or the 51 that we're trying to get to. And this process isn't kind of like a once and for all. Like we keep going through this process to kind of establish an quality improvement cycle here. So a couple of things just to give you an idea of what happens with this information. So right now we're going through the process where Qualtrics has given us a whole bunch of data. They've given us all the scores as a whole. They've given us the scores per questions, and then they've given us kind of this data dump of all your comments, right? So I will go through and read every single one of your comments. It'll take me some time to do that, but we also have some tools that the organization's employed to kind of help. So this was actually the first year we used artificial intelligence. We took all of your comments and we dumped it into ChatGPT and said, summarize this. And ChatGPT spat back, here's what your promoters are saying, here's what your passives are saying, here's what your detractors are saying, and it just kind of summarized and identified trends for us. So it helps us make it a little bit more digestible. But again, as I said, I'll read every single one of your comments, but tools like that are certainly helpful to kind of get a quick sense of where the action plans will need to be developed. Because we're going to deep dive, we're going to look at our promoters, what do they like, what do they not like? Because you can be a promoter and not like certain things. You can be a passive in the same way, and detractors. Look at each one of those categories, because ultimately, the idea that you're going to go from a detractor to a promoter in 6 months, that's not where we're spending our energy. Our energy is, can we get you from a detractor to at least a passive? And then maybe the next survey cycle, can I get you from a passive to a promoter? Promoters, keep them there. Passives, move them to promoters. And the idea is we're going to develop the action plans like we did last time, share those with you, give you updates on them like through our scorecard. so that we have a repeatable process, right? Because we're not going to get there in one go, and even if we do get there, we need to keep working every single year. So this is kind of the methodology the organization is employing to try and see us achieve our goals and exceed them. So overall, there was a 70% response rate, which is really good. Honestly, I think we just barely broke 50% last time, so to get 70% participation is super helpful. We can break that down by level of living. AL 90%, IL 70, memory care 79, and skilled nursing 46. So you can kind of see how the overall participation breaks down. Now remember, residents can fill it out. A resident can ask a team member to fill it out, like for help to fill it out, and we ask them to denote that, and then a family member can fill it out as well. So this is just kind of our Village on the Greens Net Promoter Score over time. So you can see that kind of September 22 was that peak of 40.9, went down in April of 23 to 33, and a little bit of an uptick here, 39.4 in the September one. So this is the one we want to kind of keep seeing incremental increases here. What overall themes, so these are kind of summaries coming back. Things that went well: friendly atmosphere, natural setting, positives, safety and security, peace of mind. Overall, folks' comments were that they feel safe and secure living here. From a facilities and amenities perspective, the access to a variety of activities and social engagement opportunities. And then from a satisfaction of living experience, many highlighted improved quality of life because they were living here. So those are some of the positive trends that we've kind of pulled out of all of those comments. What we need to work on, I don't think there are going to be any surprises here. Service quality, food service, frequent complaints about quality, options, and speed of food service. Maintenance issues with maintenance, including delays in quality of repairs. Financial concerns, increased fees. Residents have observed an increase in monthly fees and do not believe the services provided justify the costs. Financial transparency, concerns about the lack of clarity and communication regarding financial matters. Some more things: management issues, communication, poor communication and follow-up on residents' concerns and queries. Staff turnover, residents noted changes and inconsistencies due to frequent staff turnover. Amenities and infrastructure, deterioration of amenities appearing shabby and less maintained. And then renovations, concerns about the noise and disruptions caused by ongoing renovations. So this is the stuff that we're going to start to drill down into, because obviously there's nuances within that, so that when we start working on our action plans, we're going to be looking at, okay, maintenance issues. How are we going to address concerns about delays? How are we going to address concerns about the quality of repairs? Food service, I think we've been going through this process for some time now, but how do we continue to address concerns about quality, options, and speed of food service? So that's kind of our goal, is to come up with meaningful action plans that we can implement to address these items, so that the next time we come around you can say, yes, you know what, I'm not a detractor anymore, but I'm not positive, I'm a promoter, but I'm a passive about dining. That's what we're trying to get to incrementally. Any questions about that? So from a timeline perspective, I think our first action plans are due to the Home Office November 3rd. So we're going to be taking the next few weeks to develop that. And certainly there's kind of resources and help available from a variety of folks that we're going to try and enlist to see if we can pull that in to accelerate our work and improvements that we make at a community level. But ultimately it's a community-owned action plan. This is for me, this is for our department directors and our frontline staff to ultimately understand and address. Yes, sir.
My phone rang just at the state legislature, as I understand it, recently improved get out of here. Improved an increase in the minimum wage, as I understand it, by $2, I think it was. To what extent will that affect the employee compensation here?
So the comment was that the state has approved an increase to the minimum wage being paid in the state, and what effect will that have on our community? So as many of you know, Village on the Green made that adjustment to go to a $15 an hour minimum wage last summer of 22? August of 2022. So as of right now, the organization's minimum wage is, community's minimum wage is already 15. So many of you have already felt the pain of that impact already. Obviously, we're continuing to see wage growth in the market, and those are things that we'll address through our budget process. I think one of the things a rising minimum wage also does is potentially create wage compression. You might bring the bottom all the way up, but now you've got kind of that middle layer that you have to address too, because now their potential team members that they're supervising are now making just as much as they are. So I think for the most part, what I've witnessed through my review of wages on campus is that we have addressed wage compression throughout. So really right now, factors influencing wages are going to be what our competitors are doing, what the economy is doing as a whole, inflation. So I don't think we're going to see any negative impacts from that, but certainly something to keep an eye on. Taking a little bit of a sidebar here, but kind of in the vein of your question, I think one of the things that we have to keep an eye on relates specifically to nurses. You probably heard that the Biden administration has directed the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid to establish minimum staffing requirements throughout the nursing homes in this country, and that they're moving fairly aggressively to set how many hours per day there have to be of RN nurses specifically. While I certainly understand, the logic of, okay, more nurses, more RNs, you have better quality of care, it doesn't necessarily take into consider the fact that we already have a nursing shortage, and by increasing the requirements for them isn't going to necessarily make that go away overnight. Certainly, schools will start spinning up and cranking out classes of RNs left and right. But ultimately, there's going to be probably a painful window where, kind of like what we saw with COVID, traveling nurses all of a sudden making $100 an hour. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I do think we're going to find that RN wages are going to start going up pretty quickly because we just don't have that supply, especially here in Central Florida. So, for me, minimum wage, not so much a concern, but some of these RN staffing requirements, I think, are going to be a little painful for us in the skilled nursing environment. So I kind of share that with you as so far this month, we only have 74 responses. The majority are negative, and I get it. You have a bad experience, you want us to know exactly what it is, we want that feedback. I do also ask, if something's going right, say it's going right too, right? Because we want to understand where we're doing well, because we're making a lot of little changes, fine-tuning, and this kind of feedback tells us, yep, it's noticeable. Or you could say, no, this is still an issue, and then for us it says, no, we're not continuing. We didn't make any improvement in that area. So please hit the button. I have utmost faith in our dining leadership team to be playing by the rules and not gaming any systems here. So, for me, I'm going to say I'm going to throw July out the window, and I'm just going to look at kind of from August going forward. So please hit those buttons, whether it's good or bad. You may not want to leave a comment, that's okay. You can hit the red button and walk out the door, that's fine. But we do read all of those comments. So appreciate you guys helping us with your feedback on an ongoing basis. Because yes, NPS is super popular, and I'll come back to both of you. It's super important, but this is the ongoing, literally meal to meal, how are we doing? Steve?
Joey, I think one of the reasons you're seeing the decline is because many people are throwing out their cards that are on the table now with the pencil.
Okay, that's true, that's a good point.
And if you read those cards, you may get more from that.
Yeah.
But if they're red and stuff, you may get more out of that than pressing the button.
I understand, so the comment was a lot of residents are now spending more time filling out the comment cards, which are back on the table, so that certainly can contribute to why there's fewer people filling it out online. And absolutely, that feedback's very valid. And if this can't be, I'm okay, this isn't any hill I'm gonna die on, but like the analysis that like is just done for me in advance is more powerful through like a happy or not, which is like, for me, I spend less time, you know, trying to go, okay, let me pile up the quality concerns in here and the service ones here, and let me see how many numbers and what's the trend. Like that's the only reason why I like something like Happy or Not, that it does that analysis for
I was
us.
telling you,
Yep.
that many people are complimenting,
Mhm.
and there are a number of people who are not.
Sure. Yep. Hang on, yes ma'am, then I'll come back to you, Richard.
I know you realize that our dining experience is probably as much social as the food. I can tell you, I've been here 2 years and the food continues to go down. It is it's more like, I have friends that live in another place. Not nearly like this. It's like you're feeding old folks. And I really, and I'm speaking out, but I've talked to many people here, and we have a real problem in our dining experience, real problem. Quality of food and the selections, and it's taken away the pack and go. There are many times when I'd like to pick up something quick, take it home, I've got a phone call to make, phone call to receive. So you're taking things away, and the quality's going down, and our prices go up.
So I hear you, and I understand that. I think, you know, through our culinary corners, through our work with the culinary committee, we've been kind of very transparent around what are the issues we're facing and why we're making decisions that we're making decisions. So for example, the to-go that you were talking about, the always, not the always, what's the right word? So what's the, yeah, grab and go. So here's the thing with the grab and go, is we were very transparent with that. Yes, we had it, but then when you actually got that sandwich and you opened that sandwich up and it was a limp piece of white bread with a piece of ham and a piece of cheese, that was not what we should be serving, right? So we kind of collectively said, look, if we can't do it right, we shouldn't do it. So that's why we're gonna stop with the grab and go until we can come to you with a product that we can be proud of, right? So that you buy that sandwich and that sandwich is a proper sandwich. And so we've done that, and that's why it's back. Because I think for so long, we've done Band-Aids, you know, Band-Aid solution, and we've said yes, but we haven't really systematically taken a step back and said, can our staff even pull this off? Do we have the resources? Do they have the training to be able to support what we're saying we're gonna do? And I don't mean to say this in any way to take away from like your frustration, because I get it. You walked into this expecting it to be working day one, 100%. I get why you're frustrated. But to, you know, for us who are kind of like in the thick of it and trying to make it better, sometimes we just need to say, pause, fix it, get the structure, get the process, get the people right, and then do it right. So, you know, we're gonna talk more about menus and kind of our philosophy behind that. I hope that you see kind of that there's an intentionality, there's a purpose behind what we're trying to do to get to where we could be on the front page of the Orlando Sentinel.
The top thing that should be considered is the nutrition. And I don't know how much nutrition is in our food, because we should eat to live, not live to eat.
So the comment is like the top thing is nutrition. Nutrition is incredibly important, absolutely. Would you be surprised if I said some of your fellow residents, nutrition is not the number one thing, right? So, but for us, it's that like, we obviously have to have a program that caters to all of you, and you are not the same. There are special needs, special diets, and things like that, and really our ability to meet that is really what we're trying to get to, but also like from, again, it's a system process thing. If we can't do the basics right, to say to you, we're gonna have this robust, super heart-healthy keto diet menu. If we can't cook the egg right, the omelet right, our ability to pull off that keto diet, you know, that's just blowing smoke at you. So I do not disagree that nutrition is important. It's just that there's a lot of competing viewpoints that we need to kind of cater to all, but we need to be able to do the basics really well and then layer and layer and layer to where we're nimble and agile and meeting, you know, as much as we can, not necessarily always.
Okay, what you're saying there with the happy or not, or like Steve said, you need to read the cards.
Mm-hmm.
You need to please the residents.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones, this is our home.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just here for a restaurant. We live here. We communicate with our neighbors, our friends. And I think we're feeling that this is being ignored. This is being ignored. We need to respond more to what the residents want, not just to what is being told, this is what you're gonna get.
So I gotta push back a little bit on this is what you're gonna get, because I think we've made efforts to open that dialogue between residents and management. And we've gotten a lot of feedback, and where we are with that feedback is that there are large systemic problems within culinary. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this like we're being told this, we're being told that, similar to the grab and go, there are very specific reasons why we're doing something, right? And it is ultimately to advance that you're getting a quality meal with quality service in a reasonable amount of time, right? But sometimes we focus on like a specific menu item or a specific menu availability or a structure, and I think we're losing sight of like, we aren't even so sophisticated to be able to offer some of this. And that's not to say that we will never offer it, but in the environment that we're in, with the people we have, with the resources we have, like we've got bigger things we've got to fix for us to get to that point. And so, you know, like when I'll go through some of the menu process, I think what you'll see is we're very open to, yes, we're making changes to your menu, but it's not the be all end all, you know, and it's not, I think at Village on the Green, we have the opportunity to define what we want this process to look like. So much, you know, we've been sitting back and saying, okay, what's the menu cycle? Well, Unidyne says it's once every 6 months, and 6 months and off we go. Sean and I don't have that vision of 6 months. We want this living, breathing menu that, yes, we're rolling this out to you on the 16th, but if we get to it and we say, you know what, these 2 items aren't selling and the residents really miss this, let's make the change. Let's get to the point where we, you know, scrap this dish and add that. That is much easier of a operating environment for us, where we're only changing 1 thing or 2 things for the cooks to have to learn and master and execute consistently. This is hard. Like Sean's probably spent 3 weeks on this whole new menu. You got to develop all the menus, the extensions, the recipe cards, the balances. You got to take in all the resident feedback, and then you got to get all the cooks up to speed. Go, hey, on the 15th you're making this, and then you're going to stop cold turkey, and you're going to make this brand new menu. Start, go, do it well. Yes.
To pick up a little bit on what Artie just said, we eat with different people in most every
Can't
year.
hear the question.
And there's a growing sense of dissatisfaction. And part of that is not with a particular thing, but with the general overall changes that are occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, for instance, we had guests for dinner, prospective residents, and I prayed through the meal that they would not order a pie for dessert. Because had they gotten one of those little slivers of pie that we're now being served, I would have been embarrassed for ourselves and for Village on the Green. And those things need to be taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm. So, you know what? Let's just jump right into culinary. Okay. So, and I'm gonna hop around. Dessert menu. So we hear that feedback, right? You're concerned about the quality of the dessert, the selections of dessert, right? No sugar added, gluten-free. So here's what we're doing. Every night, you're gonna have 6 options of dessert, okay? There'll always be a pie, a cake, a gluten-free, a no sugar added, cookies, and ice cream, okay? We're gonna fix that for the week, correct, Sean? For the week? For the week, okay? That's your menu. But you're gonna have that
The same pie, the same cake, all week.
for the whole week, for the whole week, okay? But here's what you gotta think about. Jeffrey the baker, right? Jeffrey makes all of your desserts, right?
Not the gluten-free.
Well, here's the thing. When they change all the time, right? And Jeffrey does not work 7 days a week, right? There's no way that a menu that changes 3 times in a week is gonna set Jeffrey up for success to be able to execute desserts at a high level, right? Hang on, let me get through the problem. Listen, I'm happy to listen to everybody out till the very end, absolutely. But at least let me get what I'm trying to convey out, so then you can take that information and do whatever you please with it. Now Jeffrey knows, every single night I need to execute, be able to offer 6 desserts. I need to be able to make sure that I have enough par level every single night. So I don't necessarily have to make a whole slew of new pies every night. I just need to make sure that I have enough pie to be able to serve tonight, right? We're reducing his focus, right, to these 6 items, and we expect him to always have it in stock, to execute it at a high level, and to be able to do it himself, right? No frozen pies that we buy from Cisco. No gluten-free dessert that he didn't have time to make gluten-free dessert, so he got from Cisco or whatever. The idea is fewer items, done well, reduce the availability issues, and better size, because then you can focus on presentation. Like, was the small sliver of pie because we didn't have enough, so now we're taking the big slice and we're just cutting it in half and cutting it in half and cutting it in half until you're left with that, right? But if you had the proper portions to begin with, the proper par level, give you the proper slice of pie every single time, right? And I'm also not saying, okay, yes, we're narrowing the focus right now. This is where we need to get to be able to execute the basics, right? Get you dessert on your plate that checks the quality, checks the availability, all of that, right? If we get to the point where we're running so well that we can add hey, Jeffrey, you got time? Let's come up with a special dessert. Great, let's do that. This is not to say this is how it's going to be forever, but this is what we need right now to be able to meet the basics and your expectations for those quality, service, timing, availability, all of that. Because that's super important. So it's gotta be a process. So what we're trying this cycle is a fixed dessert menu for the week, but to have all of these items there for you, okay? So the menus, the methodology that we used, your survey, remember you filled out a survey maybe a year ago that said, you know, what are the items you like, and then you never saw that feedback again. We went and we pulled all of that information out, right, and went through that. Chef Guillory, we have a new executive chef. What feedback does he have about culinary? What does he want to offer? What does he want to add to the mix here? And then the existing menu, what was selling well? What do residents like? We've come up with a menu with kind of those 3 sources, presented that to the culinary committee to get the feedback of what hits, what doesn't hit, where are we going wrong, what can we do? This is our first stab at it. It is not to say that it's perfect right out of the gate, but this is where that ongoing communication, you know, especially through the culinary committee, funneling that feedback up to us to say, hey, in general, people are telling us that, you know, of the veggie sides you're doing, you need a couple more dark green veggies. Fine, we can make that, and we don't want to get locked into this thing where we're waiting 6 months on a menu. If we can adapt, let's make those little changes so that this menu is constantly evolving, constantly improving, but it's also not a complete shock to our system of dump all the old items out, add all these new items, and do it well. If we can get our team making these items at a high level because they have a familiarity, they know the recipe, they don't have par level issues, they don't have stock issues, that addresses your quality, that addresses the timing issues. So it's not a magic bullet, but it's one piece of the pie that, pun intended, that goes into the whole of kind of addressing the dissatisfaction with the community. And what we're trying to do through Culinary Corner, trying to do through Culinary Committee, is communicate back why we're making the decisions that we're making. So if that's not getting to, that's a fair criticism. You know, I'll put it in the weekly update if you want a little something on, you know, the culinary things and why we're doing it. I'm happy to do that. The new menu on the 16th. What I'm trying to communicate is we're trying to get out of a scenario where we're waiting months and you're feeling the repetition. We're trying to get to a process where we roll out this new menu and we start making changes once we've gone through a cycle to say, okay, how do we keep it fresh? How do we add new items? And let's not wait 2 months, 3 months, 4 months so that you get tired of it. You know, maybe, you know, we lose sight of how many starches we're offering. We're trying to get to the point where you say, you know what, you guys got a little starch heavy when you swapped, you know, the chicken piccata for the whatever gnocchi dish, okay? Got it. The next switch we make, let's go away from the starches. We're trying to get to more living, breathing menu versus this is the cycle, this is the day, and it shall not change ever again. We're trying to get to that so that we can address that. So, you know, part of the methodology we used was to go back and look at the existing menu and what sells well, what really appeals to residents, and try and keep that and play off of it. Okay, so we're trying to utilize the good stuff from previous menus. But what we also, you can't necessarily say just use the old menu, because you guys hated the old menu too, right? I mean, the feedback I've gotten since I've been here is we hate the menu. But now you're saying go back and use the menu. We gotta come up with a process that gets your feedback, implements it more timely, and the menu evolves so that it's something that you're happy with and that challenges you as well, because you don't want the same in, same out. We want to surprise you from time to time and say, I would have never had that, but I trust them, I had it, it was great, now that's a dish I'll try. So we're trying to get to a much more responsive menu, you know, be more responsive to the residents on that feedback.
If the quality of the food isn't up there, all the sauces and recipes just end up not being good. I think it's the quality of the food.
So the quality of the food is that the raw ingredients, is that what you're saying? Is you feel the raw ingredients isn't where it should be, that's why the food's not good. Certainly that could be a part of it, but when you look at the economics of the meal, right, there's a cost per meal that we gotta kind of work within. And if we had this whole thing about cookies, right? And I'm gonna beat up on cookies a little bit. There was this, cookies should always be offered in addition to dessert, right? You should be able to take cookies and go with you. Yep, Steve says absolutely. Okay, so here's the economics of it. Each cookie, 35 cents, right? So 70 cents for those 2 cookies. When you look at your raw food cost for that meal, $7.50, right? So you want me to take 10% off the top of that meal to set aside for cookies, and a dessert, and 2 sides, and an entree, and 2 starters. I would say to you, no. A dessert is factored into that $7.50. I want that full $7.50 for all of that stuff. I'm not going to take off 10% off the top of that raw food cost just to set aside for cooking, because then I'm starting at what? I would rather take that food cost and put it into the meat. Maybe you get Chilean sea bass more often, because I'm not wasting 10% of my raw food cost on cookies, right?
So we have a new menus coming out on
Yes.
October 16th.
Yes.
I think we should wait and try that. They're putting all this stuff together and see how that goes. And then, if we don't like it, then we come back with more feedback.
Yes, please. Because again, I have no illusion that this is a perfect menu, right? I think this is our first attempt at, look, you gave us what you said you wanted and nobody did anything with it. We're doing something with it. And while we might not get it right the first go round, give us that feedback, filter that up to the culinary committee. Because that's really, like, we rely on the culinary committee to, like, eliminate the responses that are the extremes, right? Because there's always going to be someone who's like, you know, it should be a vegetarian-based diet and you have too much meat. And I'm like, okay, that's the extreme, right? Yes, we should have some vegetarian options, and if we need to spice up our vegetarian dishes, let's do that. Culinary committee helps me filter out that noise and say, you know what? Every single one of the building reps said that the salmon is great, don't mess with it, but you know, could we get sea scallops more often? That helps me go to Sean and say, hey Sean, you know what? 4 out of the 5 reps are saying sea scallops more often, what can we do? Sean's gonna go to his vendor and say, you know what? I can get you some sea scallops, they're gonna be in season in a couple of weeks, great. He could make that addition, say, you know what, we're gonna swap out one dish for sea scallops and do that. Not wait for, you know, 6 months when the menu cycle comes, but let's make that as like it all kind of makes sense. And then, imagine this, we add sea scallops, we're only changing one dish maybe, right? He sits with the entire culinary team, with Chef Gilreath, and they all talk about how are they harvested, where do they come from, how do you know if they're fresh, how do you know if they're good, how do you know if it's cooked right? What is a white wine sauce? Like that, it's a training culinary experience around this one dish, so that when you come and you have scallop day after day after day, because you love it so much, it's the same day after day after day. But the current system doesn't really set us up for that. Yes? Thank you, sorry.
If the resident is not going to the Oktoberfest tonight, the only option to eat was one thing, salmon. No salad, no dessert, no soup, nothing else but salmon. Oh, they told me salmon, period.
What was the question?
What's the question?
The question was if you're not eating at Oktoberfest, she was told that salmon was the only option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For an entree.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there was an article in the Sentinel on one day about the Mayflower. Did you happen to see it?
I saw it about 50 times, starting at 6 a.m.
That's what we need.
They're delighted.
They're delighted. Okay, so can I throw a couple things at you? Can I get rid of the always available menu? No, right?
No.
Can I put you on a 7-day menu cycle? And can I go to point system right now? Yeah, I probably could go to point system. That's what your Mayflower residents have. No always available, okay? And a 7-day menu cycle. So the menu is the same from Monday to Sunday, okay? Because I'll be honest, if I could do that, if the cooks are making the same thing for 7 straight days, that I'm not completely changing my inventory every 3 days, guess what? I can torpedo a bunch of the quality issues. I would massacre a bunch of the consistency issues. Because I'm only making, when you think about a Ruth's Chris, if you went to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse today, and you went 5 years ago, it's probably almost the exact same menu, right? So that, and I'm not saying I'm going to that extreme and that that's what this restaurant's gonna be, but in that methodology, in that model where it's consistency, those cooks know, they have muscle memory of how they're cooking that steak. They know exactly the difference between medium rare and well done, right? Or rare and medium rare. They know exactly that difference because it's built in. We're never gonna get to that level, I get it. But I also gotta set this team up for success in a way that like, they are not set up for success right now. And I know we spent a lot of time on this, but I wanna give you one more example. You look at a cook, he works Thursday through Tuesday, okay? Or Thursday through Monday, right? When he comes in, he has a menu that he's gonna cook Thursday, Friday, right? Maybe he takes a day off, he comes back, he has another menu to do on Sunday, And then when he's in Monday, he has another menu. Okay?
Sunday's the same.
That's tough. But you think about how often our menu changes, and our team members don't necessarily work a nice clean, I work these 3 days of the menu cycle, and I work these 3 days of the menu cycle. And I'm not saying we have to make it so easy that there's no adaptation. Absolutely. They're cooks. They have to be able to adapt. They have to have the skills and the knowledge to be able to utilize that. But at the same time, like, if I'm changing the menu on a fella 3 times in 5 days, like, he's toast. How can he do anything quickly? How can he do it consistently? How can he do it at a high level?
Joey, you're saying that the Mayflower.
Sorry, too many people at me. Yes.
The Mayflower has no always available?
Correct. So they don't have an always available menu. It's a 7-day menu cycle, so it doesn't change. It's 1 week at a time. And they have a point system, so then they're flexing the food cost to the points that they're charging. You know.
Now, the difference is in a restaurant, it's the same food every day, but people don't go, same people are not present there every day. This is, when you cook in your own home, if you cook the same meal every day, your kids will be upset, you will be upset.
Sure.
So it's not, you have to change your meal every day at home. This is our home.
100%. So here's my thing about this is our home. How many of you walked in and said to your spouse, I would like a selection for tonight's dinner of 7 different entrees so that I can choose, right? But this is your home, and that is the choice that you get,
The
right?
difference is, at home, at the most, the average family is between 4 to 6 at the most. Here we have 200 people eating, and the difference of choices is much greater in here. It's only one spouse cooking, multiple cooks cooking. So therefore, the choices every day are not just 1 or 2, but 4 or 5. When we first came 4 years ago, the menu changed every day. And now in the since COVID, the menu has changed twice a week now. 3 days, same menu. The same menu every day for 7 days. I think it would be a little too, it's my opinion, I don't know.
I'm not saying that that's what I'm going to, 7 days, but I'm telling you the conditions.
But we have 200 people in this home. And therefore the choices are much greater here than it would be an average home. Hence, if there used to be 5, 6 choices like we have now every day, and really the complaints were not as greater. I don't know what's changed, but there is somehow, I'm not suggesting that one is right and one is wrong, or the quality or issue or other issues. It's a nutrition issue. We're all 200 individuals, we have different likes and dislikes. For example, I never take cookies. I hate, not that I don't, but I'm a health care nut. So I don't care about cookies. It doesn't mean people should not have cookies.
What is a porter?
Oh, do you even want to know?
What was the question of porters?
Okay, so a couple of things we're doing. Sean's done a very nice job of looking at the physical menu, adjusting the layout, trying to make it clearer where you have choices, and just make it more legible and have descriptions that actually give you an idea of what the entree you're getting is going to be. Okay. Composed dishes. What we're offering is a dish with paired sides. Okay. There's 3 dishes with paired sides. And what it is our effort to be intentional about what we're serving you, right? So that the sides work with the meal that you're having, all right? This is not you cannot make alterations to the sides, okay? You can, but it is our hope that even if half of you say, you know what, that protein paired with these 2 sides make a lot of sense, even if half of you pick that is that much less for the cook back there to have to stare at your ticket trying to figure out what it is you got. If he knows it's a filet mignon being served with mashed potatoes and some broccolini, great. If half of them are that, he's producing that faster, he's producing that at a higher quality. right? But if you're like, I'm allergic to broccolini, understand, get the green beans, that's fine. But we're trying to be more intentional about what we're presenting to you and be more thoughtful about this composed dish that you're getting. So that's what you're gonna see on the menu.
Can they take the broccoli off the table?
Sure, that's what I just said. You can take the broccolini and get you something else. You want double mashed potatoes?
They will do that in the kitchen.
They will do that in the kitchen, right? The point is, if we can reduce the amount of customization that's flying through there, our quality, our timing, our consistency, it helps to improve, right? Dessert menu, we talked about staffing. We're making tweaks back there. One of the positions that that Sean identified we needed is a porter. And really this person's job is like the inventory specialist, right? What do we have? What are we missing? When a shipment comes in, reviewing all of the materials in the shipment to make sure that the vendor actually gave us what we ordered, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, we did a substitution and not even tell you, but then we figure out when we go to cook the meal, right? So this person's that kind of help us manage the inventory, make sure we have the par levels, we don't run out of stuff. That is the goal of this position. They're not cooking anything, they're not serving anything, they're literally like a logistics supply person to help us be more successful. So that's why we're adding a porter. All right, questions?
I've seen the menus, and Sean did a beautiful job of laying them out, very readability and all that. However, on these composed dishes, when they're like lamb chops, they're on the first one, and in a chimichurri sauce or something, what if you don't eat that sauce? You don't get lamb chops. So we go a whole month without lamb chops for the person that might have liked them. That's not fair. That's not fair.
So get it without the chimichurri
Sauces
sauce.
need to be on the side. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
believe that would cater to more people.
So this is a good conversation for culinary committee.
I understand that, but you've got a big audience.
Sure, got a big audience here.
And you sit down at the table at dinner with some of these people, and all you hear is culinary. And I've been come to dinner one night, and you will hear it, and you will not come again.
You could be a side dish.
That was a good one, David. That was a good one.
We'll give them a razor blade so you can cut the pie.
Okay, and the pies did used to be bigger.
Yes, sir.
How much of this is gonna be impacted by Unidyne? Will they approve what we're doing? Will they say, no way, here's what you're stuck with? Or do you have the flexibility to implement this?
Here's the thing, we're doing it.
Okay.
We're doing it. Because here's
Unidyne likes it or not?
exactly. Because here's the thing. Unidyne looks amazing when you guys are super happy, right? So for me, I don't care if they want to take the credit, right? If we really get to the point where you're super happy with the culinary program, they can have all the credit that they want. I'm just happy that you are happy, okay? And Sean and I are exactly on the same page. Like, we have a conversation every day going, you know what, this is probably not. And I'm like, whatever. If it's the right thing to do, if it makes sense, we're gonna do it.
I agree with Marita that we ought to give this some time. But on behalf of, and I'm no angel, I have my ice cream sundaes on Saturday because I like it, and so I do it once a week. But the menu, the always available menu, it appears that there is not a Greek salad always available. Those of us who watch what we eat have 3 options each week. We have a Greek salad, we have a omelet, or we have the seasonal fruit salad. That's it. So to remove the Greek salad is always available reduces us to 2 options, and then I've been told that we can't have an omelet at dinner time because it disrupts the kitchen, which I understand, but then we're 1 option.
Mindy, I put it on the menu for you.
It's always available?
It's printed on the menu just for you.
There's only one 3-day period where there's a.
There's an omelet on there now.
Oh, well, then you've made me happy.
Oh.
But there's not much of a need, I think at least 10 or 11
Sure.
people in this audience that yes, we.
I appreciate that. Here's the thing. Everybody does what you just did, Mindy. Not everybody. Many people do, right? I have this one item and I want it. Okay, I get it. And it may be that 10 or 12 people do, right? That we make that switch, right? We're trying to get to this process where it's more flexible, right? But we're also managing a lot coming at us where like, I want this and you took it away and you're trying to screw me. We're not trying to screw you guys. Honest to goodness, like your happiness with this culinary program means a lot to me, right? I spend a lot of time on it. I brought a very good friend to work here because I was like, man, I need your help to fix it. And he can get it done, right? We've got a lot of stuff we have to work on. And we're probably gonna screw some stuff up. Don't kill us for it, just tell us. Tell us, let's utilize the systems that we have in place. Let's utilize Culinary Committee, utilize Culinary Corner to tell us what you're thinking so that we can get that, we can identify the trends and make adjustments because we're perfectly happy to make adjustments, to keep things interesting, to try new things, or to get back to something different that you used to experience. We're happy to make those things possible. We'll deal with all the complicated back-end, Unit 9, food costs, this, that, or the other. Because if we have our house in order and we've got the right people, the structure and the processes, then we can execute these kinds of things. But we're failing on like foundational things that we need to fix in order to ever get to a stage where we can fix the specialty items and the customization and whatnot. Yes?
Two comments. One, I hear the longtime residents, they always say that kitchen used to get it done, and they also had to feed the assisted living and memory care, or whatever they had to rehab. So have you investigated why it worked then and it doesn't seem to work now? And then the second question is, are we being expecting too much as a resident, that some of the things that you talk about making changes, like a dedicated reservation line, that was talked about 9 months ago, and still nothing gets done. Or we were told we were gonna have the macadamia, the Hope's Royal Cookies twice a week. Haven't seen it. So we keep getting promises, but nothing happens, and I think that's the rub, is that why are they not implemented? If you say you're gonna do it, why does it take 9 months and we still can't call in to make a reservation? Nobody answers the phone. So I think that's what people are unhappy about.
And I'm not dismissive of that rub in any way. I understand why you're frustrated. Things like the reservation line. From me, I have never said that we are going to hire a person to just answer phones. I haven't said it because it's not happening.
I think it was Unidyne or
Sure.
Purpose that said it
Maybe.
in culinary community.
But that to me goes back to people historically, and not just in culinary, but people historically telling you something because it's easy versus telling you realistically, this is what I can and cannot do. The reservation process has to be fixed. I do not doubt that in any way. I want it kind of like with the grab and go, that we do it in a manner that is, we don't roll out and stop and roll out and stop and roll out and stop, because that just irritates you even more when we just keep botching something over and over. So right now we're working on a lot of things, but we also have to understand our capacity. How much can we work on? What do we need to say, okay, finally, check mark done, move on to the next thing. Reservation is right there as like one of those pain points that we need to address. But again, I think someone has said, yes, we'll do it because it was easy. I think with the cookies too, because that was like, it's been a while since you made that request, right? I think that's someone saying, yeah, we'll do it without any thought to, can we actually do that? And maybe the answer really is yes. That's something I'll, happy to throw to Sean and say, hey, in terms of our variety of cookies, like, can we do a top 6 cookies and rotate through those cookies, you know. We can do that, but I wanna do it in a manner that is, you know, it's structured process, people are trained to it, versus, oh, you those cookies, you wanna come back? Yep, we'll do it. Without any thought to, can we actually pull that off with the setup we
But
have?
Joe, if it was known back 9 months ago that you could not get a dedicated reservation line, then why hasn't something been done? I mean, it just seems like it should be a little more timely for something that important. That people, you know, the phone rings 20 times and nobody picks it up and nobody communicates. And so, I don't know, I just find it hard to comprehend that.
To me, that's,
Can't move fast.
you take issue with the way we prioritized it, and I accept that criticism, 100%. I think you are correct in that we should have not delayed as long as we have. So I appreciate that, and that's fair criticism. Richard?
The reservations, but it's my understanding that Open Table is what was going to be
So yes, we're looking at Open Table. I'm not looking at, we're committed to Open Table. We've purchased the equipment for Open Table. For us, it's understanding the setup of Open Table. How do we appropriately program the software to help us be successful right out of the gate? Like, we need to build the floor plans, we need to build the tables, and a lot of what we're working on, obviously you can change, you can modify settings in Open Table later, but if something we're working on right now changes the way how many tables a waiter can cover, that changes a setting in Open Table that, you know, well, now we need to, how many reservations we get in an hour or in 15 minutes. So, but again, I would couch that as like that's something we need to get it done. Yep. Sir.
Is the point system being implemented November the 1st?
No. No, sir. The point system is, the question was, is the point system being implemented November 1st? No, that's tabled. From what I'm hearing now, we're going live March 1st. Because we think it's a minimum of a 60-day kind of lead up from when, you know, we announce it that we're doing it, because there are one-on-one meetings with residents, there's setup that has to be done. So I'm happy to push it off to get us through the holidays, because that's like, it seems like crazy to even try and do that during the holidays, especially with this focus on, you know, right now the sales and the revenue and the labor expense control. So that, I've been told, Zach's is here today, he said March 1st is when we're going live. So that's fresh off the press. Team member experience, we did the survey, we did listening sessions, so we're going through all that feedback right now, kind of similar to same process we're doing with the resident survey, come up with an action plan to address the concerns brought up by team members in order to be able to make this a great place to work for them as well. So the path to best in class, I think we've kind of beat this up today. Team member updates. Jamie started over in the Oaks, where he is the staffing coordinator. Super important position for us in that he schedules all the nurses, the CNAs that work in AL, memory care, and skilled nursing. Obviously, that's a lot of labor kind of under his purview, so great to have a guy with his experience on board. Stephanie's first day is today. She's our new sales director. You will see her around. She's with HR right now, but she'll be around campus. And we still have a couple positions vacant, sales assistant and an independent living outreach coordinator, which is also a sales position. So we've got 2 openings there in the sales department that we are working on. Projects, so we're finishing up the tree removal. I think today they'll be done. They were doing the stump grinding and things like that, so that should be all of the trees that had to be removed because of damage, disease, rot, whatnot. Roof repairs are underway, starting over by the A building on the carports. It's a lot worse than we expected. We pulled up a bunch of tile and found a lot more rotten wood than we expected. So the B building is probably going to be the schedule is expanding as we have to take off more tile from the roofs and fix more ply. The good thing is our initial budget was way under what we actually had set aside, so we have the money to be able to fix it right. But the scope of it is much more. The scope is getting to the point where you're almost like, do you just need a new roof? But that is an even larger proposition from an expense perspective. But we're also trying to be good stewards in that, you know, we don't want to necessarily dump hundreds of thousands of dollars in a roof repair into something that should probably just be replaced. I'm not saying that it has to be replaced, but we're getting really close to that point where we're like, this might not make sense. Window replacement is progressing. We kind of have our last sign off. Gentlemen will be here Thursday and Friday this week, so we're hoping to get the last green light that we need to put the deposit order in. And then as soon as the deposit's in, the manufacturer will be able to give us lead times, and then we'll start talking schedules. And I anticipate doing meetings, you know, probably with individual residents in a building or an A building meeting, since that's gonna be our first go round of like, what are the concerns that we need to address in preparing for this project, and then do a meeting with, okay, we heard your concerns, here's what we're gonna do to address that, and all the other details with it as we get closer to that. But we're looking at January for kicking that off. Traffic coding, kind of not tabled, but it's moving slowly. We're still working through the planter water retention issue. We have an idea of how we can address that more cost effectively, but we do also need an engineer to sign off that our solution will work and work for the period of the warranty, because I think there's some concern that a coating may not last as long as given where it is with water underneath already and exposed to the elements. So we have some stuff we have to figure out with the traffic coating, but that's a project that is approved. We just start kind of working through the details of that. The entryway project, so the only kind of development there is that we are continuing to work on the porte cochere and the maintenance yard aspects of that project. The pavilion and everything else in that area stopped. We have the nebulous opportunity is coming closer to view and looking more favorable. But should we finalize that opportunity, it would really change. We'd have to do a master plan for the campus to understand, you know, entries and exits and development and all of that. So we're not doing any more work on the entryway until we know about this opportunity, and then we'll go from there. But I think probably within the next month we should know if this is a real deal or not. I'll go quickly through this. You know about the COVID and flu clinic. There's one coming up on the 25th. By request, RSV vaccine clinic on the 3rd, November 3rd. Wendy's got emergency folders. If you need that or the form, it's online. It's a PDF form fillable. COVID went up. COVID's going down. We have had cases here on campus. I've had some requests for going back and doing the frequent updates on the number of COVID cases on campus. I hesitate to do that at this point because I really don't have good information. You know, back in the thick of COVID, there was great testing, there was great reporting. Now it's a little loosey-goosey. And yes, I know about certain cases, but I struggle with like the quality and consistency of the information and giving people a false sense of security by saying, oh, you know what, we don't have any COVID on campus, because guess what, we probably do. So I kind of go back to the kind of mantra of, you know, you have to assess your personal risk and take the steps that you deem necessary or that your PCP advises you take to protect against COVID. And that's whether there's a bunch of cases around or not, really, because your factors don't necessarily change per se. semi-answer on kind of what's going on there with COVID, but we've certainly seen here, this is state of Florida, past 10 weeks in 2-week increments, the total number of cases on the top bar, and then the case positivity, all of which you see are trending downwards since August. We will now get to see this data by week. The administration has agreed to now release it on a weekly basis, so we won't necessarily have to wait on a bi-weekly basis to kind of pick up on these trends. The next meeting is scheduled for November 8th. Any more questions? Yes.
A question about the tree removal. It's a Seminole County law that when trees are removed, they need to be replaced by new trees. Is that what it happens?
Yes, so as I've shared, right now we're working on the removal of the dead and diseased trees. Then next month we're working on the tree trimming of the remaining trees campus-wide. And then really December, January is going to be how many calipers of tree did we end up removing? Because we may, kind of in our discussions with Seminole County was like, we may come across more trees, and basically they've given us the permission to say, okay, tell us how many you've removed, how many calipers you've removed, and then we have a certain number of calipers we have to plant back. And the idea is, species like live oak versus some of the other species we've planted. And we're trying also to spread it out so you start to get a little bit of variation in age of the trees, although with a live oak it probably doesn't really matter. They can last 200, 300 years. So, but yes, that's part of the plan. Doc?
Just want to thank you for the news you gave us that our occupants will be almost 80%, hopefully by the end of the year. That's a great news for us, and we thank you very much for it.
Pleasure, happy for it. I think you all deserve like a star for sticking around. My boss left halfway through. He's like, oh, this is too much. All right.
Well, actually, technically it's not.
Technically, it's not even over, is it? Ann, do you still have stuff? I'm sorry, I chased everybody off.
So what if I do?
Thank you, Joey. This was thank you very much. This was a very important meeting, and I think we aired a lot of things. This culinary thing is a work in progress. Let's look for the 16th, and we'll see what goes on, and we'll make adjustments. I just want to say one thing before closing. I would like to, they're not even here anymore, but I want to congratulate our new building reps who were elected. I'm not going to read the names. The council minutes, hard copies are at the front desk. Anything I have to tell you are in those minutes. And I do want to say, though, that the nominations for at-large positions are still open. They're open until, I believe, the 23rd of this month. Those are 4 available positions for people to be on the council. So if you have someone in mind or would like to do that yourself, nominate and contact our elections coordinator. All that information is in our minutes at the front desk. Thank you. Shall we adjourn? Yeah. Let's go. Okay.